Any statements or opinions expressed in this interview are personal and do not represent the opinions or views of any organization to which these individuals belong. Hey, so welcome to episode 2 of Slightly Nightly. This is I'm interviewing Sir Bartholomew Hightower again regarding knightly virtues. And Sir Bart, you came very highly recommended as a luminary of virtue in the society and just in general, and so I had to
That is
put you
so
on my list.
amusing.
So,
That is very amusing to me.
the funny thing is, most people that seems to really apply to, they're like, people said what about me? So, I mean, maybe that says something. So, but yeah, I see you are a knight. You are also a member of the Order of the Laurel, the Order of the Pelican. You're on the board of the directors, and it says you're a Griffin of Artemisia. Now, I'm not really familiar with that, but I kind of I googled it, and it looks kind of similar to our Order of the Chalice here in Meridies, except
Yep.
I guess Chalice is like selected by members of the Chalice, whereas I guess the Griffin is selected by the Crown.
So yes, the Griffin is once per reign award that's given by their Majesty's, usually given it that they're stepping down, similar to the Walk of the Way or Tiger of the East or Lion of Eight Belt. There's um, uh, Lion of Monsiora. Sorry,
Okay.
the and it's given, they say, to someone who embodies the SCA. And I was fortunate and really blown away to be given this um, award uh, before I was knighted. Before, I think I may have been a Pelican at the time, but I may not have been a Pelican. Can't remember. But it was very early in my SCA career here in Artemisia, 3 or 4 years in that they did this. So did a lot of work and had a lot of fun, and just hit a portion of my life in which I really wanted to be part of the SCA, and so I
Yeah.
saw that. Kind of fun. It's a really neat thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think that's that I think maybe that's something people are kind of struggling with lately, is really the drive to be involved, to just have your hands in something.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And like I found that it's in my local group, I ran into that a lot. Like, there so many people are like, I want to be involved. And that does so much. And it's not for everybody. Some people just want to show up and camp, drink with their friends, and leave. And that's great. There's a place for that. Um, but I think it's good when we recognize when somebody is willing to commit their time and energies to making sure that there are things for other people to enjoy. You know what I mean?
Well, and for me, it was. I just found myself in a position. We had a local group. It's a shire, the Shire of Cote du Ciel, which I
Mhm.
think is the best shire in the known world. It's these guys are a ton of fun to be with and fun to be part of. But we just hit one of those points in a group in which the leadership that had been there for a long time stepped back, and we had a lot of things that we had in the hopper, and we needed someone to step up and do them. And so I stepped up and started doing them, and it was fun. It was a blast working with this and working with the people, and before long we had our own little thing going, and it was really great. So just enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I will accept your statement because I'm not a member of a shire. And so I'm not going to argue you about that. I'm just directly in the barony of South Downs.
We don't say that to people outside the Shire, of course. We
Right.
just
Okay.
we just say it amongst ourselves.
Well, good thing no one will hear this. um, let me see. And yeah, so we were going to talk about virtues. And I was wondering if you had a personal list that you kind of stick to or reference.
Yeah, the nightly virtues was something that I struggled with, and when I was trying to become a knight and figuring out what that was, and what I had to do, and doing those things, and so you always hear about the seven nightly virtues, and I would ask someone what the seven nightly virtues were, and they would say, and they rattle off a list, and maybe get to three or four or five, and I'd ask someone else, and they might give me 11. and they were totally different. They're all different. They're always different. And
Yeah.
so you kind of have to pick the ones that are important for you, and to try to weave yourself around those and weave them into the fabric of who you are. Now, and some of them are really obvious, like prowess, of course,
Right.
for knighthood is, it's just that's the air we breathe. That's the stock and trade of what knighthood is. And so, if you don't have prowess, if you are not confident on the field and able to throw a great flat snap and offside leg and all of those, and got your wrap going on and know your footwork and be able to control the fight and have hopefully more victories than losses, then you're just not going to get very far in knighthood. That's true, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much more to knighthood, I found out, and one of the things that really intrigued me off of that was franchise, and aspirants to the order are always asking me, what is franchise, and how do I get it, and what does it look like, and how will I know when I've got it? And I asked these questions too. I did, and I
Yeah.
asked my knight, and he said, "Well, I don't know. It's kind of just like who you are." And I asked another knight, and he'd go, "Oh, franchise," and he'd lead me to some obscure Middle Ages text, and I wouldn't get that either. But I think so. I had to come up with my own definition of what franchise is, and it's pretty close, a little different. And I chose the model of McDonald's. I like McDonald's.
Okay.
So you go to you hear the word franchise, McDonald's franchise, but
Right.
what there's a couple of things that it goes along with that. And the first is that if you are driving down the interstate and you see a McDonald's sign on the horizon, you know right away that you're going to be able to go there, and you're going to get a Big Mac, and you're going
Mhm.
to get the French fries, and you're going to get a large Diet Coke, and or you could get a Happy Meal, and you know what that is, and you know what it's going to cost, and you understand that, and you know it's maybe not the greatest, but if your choice is between McDonald's and gas station sushi, then I'm definitely going to go with McDonald's because I know what that's a known quantity,
Right.
and I know what that is. Um, and franchises like that in knighthood too. If you see someone who's a knight, then you usually can recognize them whether or not they've got a chain on or not,
Hmm.
because of the way that they fight on the field and their confidence and their leadership qualities and many of the things that you expect to see in a knight, you will see in that person. Hopefully, you will see in that person, and so you know what that is. That's that comes along with the package. But there's another part of franchise, and that is that it's owned by the individual people. You go to McDonald's, it's not owned by McDonald's, it's owned by grandma and grandpa,
Hmm.
or some small business in town, and they may have a couple of these, and the parking lot's a little different, and the building's a little different. And we've got two McDonald's in Logan. One of them is the classic. It has actually the little arches on the side, so you can like drive around through the arches. And it's a favorite of the annual car show. They like to go there and hang out at that McDonald's. And there's another one at the other end of town. It's a uber modern McDonald's, and you
Yeah.
can walk in and hit a couple buttons, and the steam comes out and the doors open, and there's a not exactly like that, but
Right.
it's similar.
Very Jetsons, though.
No, they're different, right? Because those owners have made different choices about what they're going to do. And franchise also
Yeah.
is like that for knighthood, in that you can choose what parts of it you want to bring to fore, and what parts of it are going to be used for you. And it's building a show. It's part who you are. This is the person I want to be. I want to act as a knight. I want to take care of business as a knight. I want to be thought of as someone you can trust, a safe person that you
Hmm.
can talk to if you need to talk to, or someone who will protect you if you need some protection, or
Right.
someone who's going to go out and fight like a banshee on the battlefield, or someone who's going to give people a great run for their money on the tournament field. You want
Hmm.
to be able to do all of those things and build that show. And franchise is your way of putting that together in a unique way that both embodies knighthood and embodies you at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's really what I love about that. What I love about franchise. How am I doing? That,
Good. Great. This is great.
and I guess if there's another one that I really love, it is largesse.
Hmm.
Largesse, I think, is a great um, virtue of knighthood,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's referred to as generosity or
Hmm.
charity. Um, but um, but I think of largesse as giving with intent.
Hmm.
You know, I try to be generous to people to help out where I can, but I also have some intent in mind.
Hmm.
I see a new fighter who's out there and he looks like he's putting together a kit and he's got some ace bandages wrapped around his legs in the place of Winnegas, and I got a pair of Winnegas I'm not using, and
Hmm.
so I'll give that if I you know, give that to the fighter, and they may may not see them again ever.
Hmm.
I may never see that person again ever, or something might happen. You know that the person may say, "Oh, I got it now. I've got cool leg wraps, just
Right.
like the the other people around here. Maybe I can try a little more, do kind of a different thing, or put my energy somewhere else." And so I could potentially have a new person in my shire that could be a fighter, or it could just be a new person in the shire that
Hmm.
gets to be part of what we do and part of what we play and help create things and build things. So I'm I look for opportunities in which you find a person that needs something, needs a thing,
Hmm.
or maybe a kind word or some encouragement, or there's something that a person needs in order to get them moved along a little bit, or bring them into the fold, or make them feel welcome, or help them decide that they're going to put more effort into their kit, or one of 100 different things. And
Yeah.
so try to find ways of giving with intent. And I, I'm a little worried that we sometimes think of largesse in our kingdom as we're going to make a bunch of stuff for the king and queen to give to other people, and
Hmm.
it boils down to that. It's more than that. Even their majesties are looking for this. Also, just need help doing that. There's out in the Outlands a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
One of the king there, majesties there, decided that for their largesse, what they would do is they would find all of the one of the things they would do is they would find all of the new people that were coming to events, and it's quite common now to give like a little trinket or bauble or something like that to new people,
Yeah.
and they decided they were going to give a mug. When
Hmm.
you get to go to an SCA event the first time, generally you don't know what to drink out of, and
Right.
look a little funny drinking out of your red Solo cup, while
Yeah.
everyone else has got a cool mug. And so they decided they were going to do that, and they had a chest, and they had some old mugs, and they put into it, and they started giving those out, and soon, very soon, all of the people around them and in the kingdom started donating old mugs that they had. Who hasn't been in the SCA for
Yeah.
10 years that doesn't have a couple of old mugs sitting around they don't use anymore because
Hmm.
they've got a mug they like better. And so they ended up with this chest of mugs that they would take around with them to events to give to people and make them feel more welcome. Just outstanding
Hmm.
example of largesse.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good one. I know if it weren't for largesse, I don't know if I would have kept fighting because the like it seems overwhelming when you start and you see like you go to your first practice and you see these guys with $1,000 kits, um, and just super sharp, and there's loaner gear, and loaner gear is great. It's a fantastic thing. I'm super glad it exists, but
It sucks.
I don't feel awesome wrapped in bright blue pickle barrel when I'm fighting a guy in you know, uh, heat treated spring steel and everything. And, but then within, a couple days, somebody sold me a helmet for $1, uh, with the understanding that when I got another helmet, that one would go to loaner gear.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was Baron Wistrick, actually, my Baron.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
I got just given a placard covered in purple velvet, which I enjoy because I mean, you know, it's striking and everything, but I have since you know, passed that on to somebody else, and now I'm using a coat of plates that I was given, because you know, you just kind of, you have to upgrade, you know, gradually, and there's only so much loaner gear to go around, and you don't want to be that guy forever and stuff. And like, the community is so focused on, I want you to have what you need, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's really like, it's heartwarming, it's inspiring, it's welcoming. Um and there are some times where things don't feel like they're done with intent, but at the same time, like for example, I feel like it would like my one of my household brothers, my there's Master William Scrivener, is he's a Pelican.
I've
Um
heard you. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, he's a good friend of mine. He lives a couple minutes away. And back before all this, we were doing fighter practices about once a week. And if you show up at his house, he doesn't ask, you're just given food afterwards. Um, and he's like, he's got like 12 kids. Like, so there's, you know, it's not inconsiderable that he needs to, to provide food for additional people. But he's like, I'm not going to put you in a place where you might need food and not be comfortable asking. I'm just removing that difficulty from the equation for you and giving you food. If you're here, you're eating, unless you tell me you are definitely not. Um, and like,
Great.
yeah, and while that's not like, he's not doing that, say, I'm feeding you because I want this thing to happen. It's just like, you need to eat. Everybody's got to eat. I have food you can eat. You're eating. And I think that's awesome. And I feel like that falls under largesse, but maybe in a different, like, subcategory from what you're describing.
What? No, you can't. Largesse doesn't remove
Yeah,
the desire just to help your fellow man, just help fellow human being,
yeah,
and it doesn't mean that you aren't being generous
hmm,
when you give, but and it doesn't mean you can't be generous, without intent either.
right,
It's just that it is it doesn't even have to be planned. It can be
hmm,
like I didn't think I was going to give some winning as to a guy when I walked up that night, but I could see that.
right, yeah,
But I also have. Um, hang on just a second. Can you? I'll be right.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just going to walk across and I'll be right back. I
okay,
want to show you something I'm working on.
yeah,
So, and I can still talk while I do this.
yeah,
Um, here we go. So one of the things that we have in our group, which is pretty common, is
hmm,
we like to make sure that people, when they get their AOAs,
hmm,
will receive a knife also.
okay,
Because they're given their award of arms, they can bear arms around the king and queen, and
okay,
and sometimes I can help, not all the time, more often than not,
hmm,
less often than not as often as I want.
right,
But I like to be able to give knives, but if you go to a typical knife shop at a Ren Fair, you're going to see a lot of stuff from India
hmm,
that has a lot of plastic in it,
yeah,
and it's just not the kind of thing that you want to see. And so one of the things I've been working on has over the past couple of years have been knives. And so
hmm,
here's an example of a
oh,
of a
nice,
knife. This one is not. There you go. If I can get it in the camera there. This
yeah,
one has not been finished yet. Well, it's backwards. I
hmm,
have to be careful. So it's not. Doesn't have any finish. Doesn't have any dye on it. Doesn't have anything
yeah,
on it. But it is. I mean, it's got like a little wire ring in here, and it's
yeah,
completely sewn. It's got a little knife in here, and the knife is a. It's one of my favorite knives. This is an Opinel.
yeah, yeah.
It's really,
I used to have one of those, but it was blue. But yeah,
and
those are nice knives.
it's a good knife. It's close to a pica. It's a folder. Dang
Yeah,
it! It's really hard to do it for that. It's a folder, but it will lock in place,
yeah,
and it's got a wood handle, and it's a perfectly suitable knife to have around. And when you put it into a sheath, it looks fantastic.
yeah.
These things take. I've got it down to maybe an hour,
Oh
hour and a
wow,
half to build one of these. and there's you get a little
Hmm.
pointer on the tip there, and you get sewed, and you can put some little dots in. This one actually has a little figuring on it, little tooling on it. It'll show up nicer when I put some antiquing on it.
Okay.
But the number of times I've found, number of places I've found, just to give a person a knife if they need one.
Hmm.
They're here in the SCA and they don't carry around, and give them one of these things and they're carrying it on their belt along with their pouch, and they feel really great. It's just the kind of thing that lets people know when they come into your sphere of influence, and when they
Hmm.
come into your group,
Hmm.
that they're going to be taken care of. The people are looking out for them, and it
Yeah.
means a lot to them.
Yeah. Belt knife is one of those things that goes a long way to, just completing your garb,
Yeah,
but also like, I mean, it's useful. You can use it at feast if you need to, or just camp tool. Like I I had a knife that is like quasi, it's period-esque, um, that I got, like I bought it myself, and then a friend of mine's making me a sheath for it, so I haven't seen it in a while, obviously because of everything going on. But yeah, like when I wear it, like it just makes everything feel a lot more appropriate. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Which is not to say somebody without a knife is inappropriate. It just, I feel like I fit in more when I've got one. It's like
yeah.
having the right kind of belt or footwear. Those little things that aren't the majority of your garb, but do so much to complete the look.
You know what? People notice that stuff. They really do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, giving someone a chance to have that and be part of it just makes them sort of part of the club. That's really a great thing.
Yeah.
So another, there's other nightly virtues and qualities and things that you could talk about.
Yeah.
Um, faith took me a long time for me to figure out what faith was when people
Hmm.
talk about that. Some people will say, and I may agree, that faith is perhaps the most important virtue, that
Hmm.
rivaling or maybe even exceeding prowess. And I didn't understand what faith was. It took a long time. Some people will say it's faith in God, and clearly
Hmm.
a lot of the medieval texts will say it. But I think it's more than that. I think when you step out onto the field to fight someone, you have faith in their ability to give you their best fight.
Hmm.
You have faith that the rules that we have in this game that we've created, whether you're on the tournament field or off the tournament field, you have faith that other people
Hmm.
are in that as well and believing that, and are operating in a genuine and a mode when they're in the SCA. You have faith that people are going to behave as ladies and gentlemen in the Middle Ages.
Hmm.
So I think that I think faith is an incredibly important virtue that we have. We just sort of have to accept to be part of what we do. It's the I wouldn't call it willing suspension of disbelief, because we aren't disbelieving. We're believing in what we're doing.
Yeah.
So faith. What else? What other virtues do we have there? I think that's pretty much the end of mine. We could probably find some more if we need to.
Yeah. I mean,
Prowess, franchise, largesse, faith, and I think that's. There's probably another one I like.
yeah. Well,
Doesn't.
I mean, we can come back to it if you want. Like,
Sure.
we don't. It's not a choose your own adventure where we can't turn the page back. Let me see. So, do you feel that the virtues, like, we talked about like the ones that you like, and kind of how you use them. Do you feel they've impacted you in a beneficial way? Like, have they made your life better? And if so, how?
Well, yeah. Um, I decided I joined the SCA first time when I was just out of high school, and I didn't have a lot of common sense. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't understand, that treating how to treat people and what was responsible, what was not. A lot of these things, just concepts, just hadn't really formed very well in my mind yet. You hear a lot about it, you talk a lot about it, but you're not really living it. And so the SCA gave me an opportunity to learn some of these ideas and try some of them out, and to act, put myself out there and act in ways that are not immediately beneficial to you,
Hmm.
that you don't see any, why should I do this stupid thing? That's silly. Why? Yeah, it's kind of fun to watch, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let someone else do that. It's really difficult to sort of put yourself out there. And I think the SCA gave me a chance to try that slowly over time
Hmm.
and to believe in myself when I would put myself out there and behave in a chivalrous manner, that I would get something out of that. And I don't mean like reward from people around me, but I would get something out of that myself, that
Hmm.
I would feel better about myself and understand that being generous and trustworthy and following your word, and these things have importance, not just for the people around you, but also to you and to your well-being.
Hmm.
And so I started using them more and more in my own personal life, and it's been, I don't know, it's helped me be a better person. I don't know how to say it other than I feel better about myself. I like the person that I am.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do it any differently. I had an opportunity, talk about in real life. So mundanely, I'm a college professor. I work in the
Okay.
computer science department at Utah State University.
Hmm.
And for a number of years, I was the department head there. I there was a need. I had no desire to be the department head, but there was a need. There
Hmm.
was a vacancy, and we needed someone to step up, and so I stepped up. And it's a difficult position. It's when you're a department head at an academic university, everything points at you. Everything. The
Yeah.
faculty, the dean, the provost, the president. Sometimes I had discussions with the president. The students, the students' parents, various administrators, the staff. It all ends up on your desk. All of it.
Yeah.
And it's a little like being strapped to a rocket ship. It really is. You're sort of where the confluence of all these, the academic side of it and the business side of it all sort of come together, and it sort of gets mishmashed around. There's plenty of opportunities for acting poorly,
Right.
and especially financially. And the first lesson I took from the SCA was don't mess with the money. The SCA doesn't have a lot of money.
Hmm.
And whenever you're dealing with money in the SCA, you need to be extraordinarily careful. You're being a steward
Hmm.
of other people's money. And
Hmm.
so, first thing I did was I talked to my business manager and I told her she was not allowed to let me do anything wrong. If something was against the rules, I was not allowed to do it, and she was supposed to say no. So when
Right.
I asked her, "Hey, can I buy this leather couch for my office?" and her response was, "No, no, you can't do that." It's okay. All right, I'm not going to do that then.
You
Right?
don't know until you ask.
That's exactly. Well, I was, sometimes I really wanted to do things,
Right.
and they said, no, that's not a cool thing to do. So, okay, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do that. And the second thing I picked up from that, I sort of picked up on that. I thought, you know what? This academic department is a lot like a kingdom, and I get to be the king
Hmm.
for a period of time. So I am going to. We aren't going to have faculty meetings. We're going to hold court, and the faculty members are going to be my peers, the peers of the realm, and the uh, uh, PhD students are going to be the squires and associates, which is exactly what they are.
Right.
And we're going to have the populace, and we're going to give awards, and we're going to have scrolls for the awards. We did actually, not actually scrolls. We translate into, here's a nice plaque, thank you for doing this, that kind of thing,
Hmm.
or finding ways to work with people in the same way. So I ran the department as an SCA kingdom. I didn't tell anybody that I was doing that,
Hmm.
but that's kind of how I thought of it, and I used the interpersonal dynamics that we have in the SCA and brought them actually literally into the workplace, and found ways to work with them that sort of mirrored that, and picked up on a lot of the lessons. If you say something,
Hmm.
then you have to do that. You have to be true to your word, or come up with or find a really good reason why not.
Right.
You have to try. You have to, if there's bad news, you have to deliver the bad news quickly, and without without sugarcoating it too much. This is the bad news, and then find a way to work beyond that.
Yeah.
If there's we have something we want to do. Why are we doing this? It takes more effort to do this. We can just sit in our little faculty offices and not do this, and we will still have a job next year. But that's not what we're doing. Our goal is to build the community by educating students and sending them out there, and we have to find ways to do that better. And
Right.
so it was actually kind of fun to try that and to see how that worked. It didn't always work. Sometimes things sort of thudded, but by and large, it was really good. It was adding a sense of trust and belonging
Hmm.
and togetherness into the department. It was really a great time for all of us. I feel.
Right. And I mean, I feel like you probably would have, you know, had a decent enough read of the room to know if they weren't a fan of the process. But yeah, I mean, uh, maybe I should try that at work. What are you a professor of?
Computer science.
Okay. I kind of just assumed English or history because that's mostly what I hear from people in the SCA. Um,
It's really odd. It's completely different from what I do at work. It
yeah.
true. I mean, just the subject area.
Hmm.
Um, you think,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, the same kinds of things that I like to do in the SCA,
Hmm.
I like to build things, like to make things, like to go to the hardware store and say, I could make something out of that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I do this sort of the same thing in computer science when I'm working on a project
Hmm.
or working with a student. There's something I want to do, something I want to accomplish. How do I put the pieces together and make it work? So it's the same kind of, many ways. It's just you get the same kind of kick out of both of those.
Yeah. And yeah, and I find that for me, if it's depending on what my level of involvement is with something outside of the SCA, if it's something I kind of dabble in on my own, like music, like I play guitar and sing and stuff, I enjoy doing that in the SCA. If it's something I do a lot outside of the SCA and I'm very heavily involved in, I kind of want to keep it separate
Yeah,
because my SCA is my escape from the real world and vice versa. So like if I'm like focused on something, I've got a lot of responsibility and things I need to manage and stuff in the SCA. I don't want to also be doing that in my real life because I'm going to burn out on something,
yeah.
you know?
And there's nothing more jarring to me than walking across campus and someone say, "Hey, Sir Bart," and I'm going, "Whoa, I'm not Sir Bart here. I am
Right.
Professor Watson, and don't you forget it." Not quite that mean, but that's
Right.
I like those. I like to keep those things a little
Yeah.
apart there. Yeah,
Separation of church and state. Yeah.
yeah.
I and it's, I don't know, like people at work call me Adam, but pretty much everybody else calls me Nikon. I mean, that's what my Facebook name is and everything. So, and I'm totally fine with that because I keep like professional life separate from Facebook mostly. The people that I'm friends with on Facebook, I'm also friends with outside of work, so I'm fine with that. But
Yeah, and
but
that's one of the reasons why I have a Facebook account that is my SCA name,
yeah,
because I'd prefer not to have all of my students,
right,
tripping through my Facebook pages.
right, yeah, that's fair.
But,
And if I had that kind of job, I probably would be more interested in absolutely keep these two separate. Um,
every
yeah.
now and then, I did. Uh, I've done a couple demos on
Mm.
campus with fighting. I tell you what, I have never looked more period than I look when I'm doing a college demo,
I'm sure.
because I know that there are history professors that are going to be walking past, and they are definitely going to be judging me. So I try to keep it, looking as stiff as possible when I'm
Yeah.
out there in demo land.
Yeah, there was a
Oh, sorry.
there's a guy you probably familiar on YouTube. His channel name is Shadiversity. Shad Brooks. He lives in Australia and he just talks about like medieval arms and armor and stuff. He's actually recently bought land. He's going to try to build a castle on and stuff. It's an
Oh,
interesting
nice. I
channel.
think I may have heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, but so he did one where he went to like their Infest and he had a demo where he was just standing out in the field talking to everybody. And the whole point was tell me what's wrong about my garb. And it was stuff like he's wearing like I think it was like a 5th century tunic or something, but like really high riding boots and stuff. And they're like, no, you need turn shoes. So that was fascinating because I'm so exposed to, like fantasy pop culture and everything that I've got this whole mishmash in my head. And I'm relatively new to the SCA. I've only been in a couple of years, so I'm still kind of learning what things actually look like.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the really cool things about our organization is you can show up and put a cut a hole in a beach towel and stick it over your head and put a belt around it and everyone will just draw you right in, and then spend the next several years just sort of saying, oh, I think I like this, I think I like that. Oh, I'm doing that wrong. Oh, I should do this instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a it's such a wonderful thing. And sometimes we have people try to cut that
Yeah.
process short to say, oh, for your next event, I'm totally going to address you.
Yeah.
And I think you should not do that. I think you should let people sort of discover things on their own
Yeah.
and to figure it out, and they'll eventually work it out. But that journey of discovery and learning
Mhm.
is important and rewarding.
Yeah. It's like my best friend Mark. Mark is like I can't say enough good about him. Like he's the reason that I found out about the SCA. He's the reason that I discovered that virtues were an important thing in the SCA, which is why I decided to actually join. Um, and like when I started going, I had some because I had LARPed previously, so I had some very basic like this is at least not modern clothing stuff that I was wearing.
You're
And
still
then,
LARPing.
well, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But
Is
like,
your real name Nikon?
no. I agree with what you're saying. It's and I know there are other people that will turn their noses up, but no, it actually is. I mean, it's a form of LARP, but
Yeah,
like, um, like in my head they're separate because of the mechanics and everything. But
I understand.
um, yeah. So I showed up in that clothing, and Mark was like, "Great, you've got not modern clothing. That's great first step." And then he was like, okay, it's going to be cold tonight. Do you have cold weather gear? And I was like, no. And he's like, put on this hoopla, which by the way is what I'm wearing right now.
Oh,
And
nice.
I was like, man, this is awesome. And he was like, enjoy your new hoopla. I was like, okay. And like I've gotten like a tunic and some pants and stuff from him. Like so,
And a
but
hoopla.
yeah, but it's a matter of like he's like teaching me about it and like making sure that I'm dressed for the event, like comfort wise. Um, and thankfully, it's not a matter of like, well, I won't be seen with you if you're wearing that. It's nothing like that, fortunately.
No, I get it. I totally
Yeah,
get it.
yeah,
One of the things I'm so envious of your part of the country
mhm.
is all of the cool sites that you guys have got.
Yeah. We
Um,
do have some pretty good spots.
I've spent, my first experience in the SCA was in Meridies,
Oh, okay.
and I was in, oh, I can't remember what it's called now, but we called it um, Pencilier, and it's I don't even know if there's a group there now, down in Manchester and Tullahoma, Tennessee,
Mm,
so north of you. And so my first experience at an event was at Thousand Oaks Castle in Winchester.
mhm.
Gladenfeld was holding an event there, and I got to go to so many great sites when I was living in that area. It just seems like you show up at an event and there's a feast hall and there's food on and there's dorms if you want to stay in the dorms.
Mhm.
In fact, a lot of people just stay in the dorms, and or there's cabins. These That's awesome. When I go to an event here, it's like, okay, we got to bring the pavilion, we got to bring a kitchen, we got to bring water, we got to bring. What are we going to do with that electricity for the weekend?
Yeah.
All of those things, have to be thought of when we go to an event. It's just amazing the stuff that you've got there. So really, really envious down that neck
Well,
of the woods. But we got great scenery, so
yeah. Yeah, and most of the events that I've been to have been, tent events. We do have, I think, probably my favorite site that I've only been to for a fighter practice, not an actual event yet, is Dalwhinnie Fields in
oh yeah,
Alabama.
yeah, I've been there.
Um, oh yeah, so they've got the wall with the gate, and you
Yep.
know
Yep.
the what you call it,
Turning
the
field.
yeah, the turning
Yes.
field with like the stands next to it. It's really really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Great Hall.
and
Love the Great Hall.
yeah, and my friend Agnes is doing like painting the panels like with period scenes on the walls in the Great Hall and stuff.
Oh yeah, I saw some of those. Awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah, wonderful.
yeah, but yeah, so the next thing I wanted to what led you to the list of virtues that you have? Was it like a specific individual, or like how did you curate that list?
Um,
And if it just grew organically, that's that's a thing.
well, I'll tell you what happened is that I was a young squire
Mm,
and was interested in all of this, and I knew in my head that fighting was not going to be it. Fighting had to be there, but it was not going to be all of it. And so
yeah.
then you hear your knight say something like, "Gosh, you got to pick up an instrument," or you need to help me with this um, this court stunt we've got going, or
Hmm.
and so you start seeing things like that, or I'm giving a dinner and I need you to act as a servant, and so you start seeing little things like that put together, and then you hear about the list of virtues. Oh, that's got to be it. That's the thing that I need. That's what's going to tie all of these little acts together that I'm working on. Then you hear the list, and it's like it sort of falls, dead. Like, okay, how do I do that? That sounds
Hmm.
like a list of stuff. Then you go back to corpora, and you say, oh, I need to learn to play chess, and I need to dance,
Hmm.
and then you look at the list of virtues again, and it still just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but it doesn't really make a
Yeah.
lot. So for me, what it was is, you hear the virtues, you hear the list, and then you have some experiences, and then you look at the list, you have some experiences, and you look at the list, and you say, oh, that's
Yeah.
what that means.
Yeah.
That's what that thing means. All right, all right. No, you look at someone and you say, and you're thinking, gosh, that's a cool night. That's the one. That why, and then you think to yourself, well, why is that night the cool night? And you say, well, he's got the armor and he's
Mhm.
got a pavilion that's got an encampment that looks really awesome. I think that's great. And you think, oh, you know, that's a thing that I'd like to have.
Mhm.
That's a part. I want that to be a part of me. And so it's almost like, you have these ideas in mind. And I'd like to think of virtues as categories of, like little pigeonholes
Mhm.
of experiences and parts of knighthood that you could put things in or not put things in. As
Mhm.
you have to address pretty much all of them, but some of those pigeonholes are going to get more use than the other ones are, and then you end up going mentally shopping. Yeah, you look around, and you say, well, I want to be that kind of person. What is it about that kind of person? Oh, that's why I want to be that kind of person. And you sort of
Mhm.
put that in the list of things. And before long, it's not so much the things, the elements that okay, well, here's let's talk about franchise. We can talk about franchise. Okay, they got a great encampment. Okay, I'll put that in the franchise thing. They can stand up in court and they can orate and deliver in a way that makes you feel something. Okay, that I'll put that into the franchise. Oh, they got great garb. Great garb. Look at that. Oh, they can play an instrument. Oh, and before long, rather than talking about all of those individual elements that you've put into the franchise box, you start talking about the franchise box, like the junk drawer of the SCA. Like,
Right.
oh, where does that go? Well, that goes in the prowess drawer. So then you open up the prowess drawer and there's all the stuff there. You open up this drawer and there's all the stuff there. So I think that's really how you make this. You don't make the selection one at a time to say, I'm going to focus on franchise. Instead, you do things, and then later on, you look at all the things you've done, and you can group all those together into
Mhm.
that virtue that you're talking about, and then it makes sense. And then you start acting on it. Then you say, oh, this is how I can up this area by doing these. You look for things to put in that drawer rather than collecting the things that you've already got. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you
Less
know, sorry, go
less
ahead.
less less planning and more reflection.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, yeah, I didn't join the SCA and somebody handed me a checklist or anything. Like, I I so the list that I have, I found. I feel bad because I don't remember where, but it was just some blog post, and I looked at it, and I was everything on that list was either something that I feel like a knight should be good at, and I feel like I'm doing okay at, but could maybe improve, or something I absolutely need to get better at. And so it's like these are, it's kind of like a to do list for me of things that I want to improve. Just to, I mean, the thing that I really liked about the SCA, the way Mark hooked me is it's about building a better me. I want to be um, the best possible version of myself, and
Oh, I like that. That's good.
and that's part of the reason that I'm doing these interviews and stuff. So people talk about knights, people think prowess typically, um, and and with the lockdown, especially, like, so many people, like, there's all these pages like the SCA Coaches Corner and the Virtual Fighter Practice, and like everybody's talking about prowess and ways to improve their prowess, and ways that you can practice on your own without being able to practice with other people right now, and different drills
This
you
is
can do and
awesome.
different things you can research. Yeah, and it's fantastic. Um, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about the non prowess stuff. And I was like, I don't want people to lose any focus on that. You know what I mean? I don't want to lose any focus on it, which was my original goal. And then I was like, maybe other people need to hear it too, or maybe other people just want to hear it. Um, and so that's why I started thinking maybe I can, because I was gonna Bart, the not you Bart, obviously, Bart,
A false
Barthel
start.
Barthel.
I'll say it.
Yeah,
I'll say it on
okay.
air.
All right, you can say it. I don't want to say it because I'll fight the guy at some point soon. But
I just,
Bartholomew of
I just,
Illyria,
I just have to say, yeah, you're talking about Bartholomew Illyria,
right?
who lives in currently East Kingdom and is coming back to Meridian East, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
He's in Atlantia, I think, but yeah, he's coming back to Meridies.
yeah.
Super happy to have him. But
I just got to say that I've been watching this guy for years. He's inspiring,
mhm.
and he's if I could pick anybody to have as his name and mine, of course, are not identical, but if I could have anybody to share a name with, I
Mhm.
would have chosen him. He is just a fantastic guy. Just love him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's the first person besides Mark that I spoke to in the SCA about virtues. Like, I was just posting about it online, I think, or something, and he just started messaging me about it. And the virtues are really important to me. I did not realize how important until I joined the SCA, but that really said something to me. And I don't remember where I was going with this when I brought him up, but
And you're running the podcast.
yeah, I have ADD. It's my real life initials for a reason. So I do the best I can. But yeah, like um so I found that list um when I was just kind of looking for a list of virtues, and then oh, that's what I was going to say. So, everybody's talking about prowess and stuff, and Bart and I had talked about virtues in the past. So, um I was like, I want to actually just sit down and have like a discussion with him about it.
Mhm.
And because like I talk to Mark about the virtues pretty frequently, because Mark and I we just talk all the time. I don't talk to Bart as much, partially because he lives farther away and everything. I've only seen him in person like 2 3 times, but I was like, I want to actually sit down and like maybe have a Zoom call with him about it or something. And Mark was like, well, we've talked about a podcast in the past about the virtues. Maybe you should do that. I was like, that's okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'll just record it. So, and that's how this all started, because, I want the virtues to maybe have more of a light shown on them than I see, which is not to say nobody does it. I just don't see it personally as much as prowess, and I want them to have their own moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the more you delve into this and the more you think about it, the more you're going to see it,
Okay.
and the more you'll understand it. And I really kind of envy you where you are right now in trying to figure all this out. It's kind of it's a jigsaw puzzle, and putting little
Yeah.
pieces of it together, and you can sort of see what the picture is going to look like. But it's just a wonderful little voyage that you're on here,
Mm.
and you should not cut it short. Finding these things out and learning these things and reflecting on them is really a wonderful way to build who you are. So I totally agree with what the other people have talked about. I think Mark mentioned that to you.
Yeah. Um, okay, and then the next two things I wanted to talk about was virtues that you find especially challenging, and then if you have a favorite virtue.
Well, franchise, is one of my favorites. It's the one I
Right.
think it doesn't get enough talk, and I think it
Right.
should. And so I've sort of adopted that one.
Yeah.
But interestingly, the one that challenges me is prowess, of course.
Hmm.
That you're never good enough, and I'm not the best fighter on the field. Not definitely not the worst, but
Hmm.
always, for me, I'm 58 years old now, and so there are things my body doesn't do now that it used to be able to do, and so I
Hmm.
have to find ways to work within that and to try to maintain prowess. I definitely
Yeah.
fight differently now. Definitely fight differently
Yeah.
because of the tools that I have available to me. And
Hmm.
so this always challenges me. It used to really bother me that I couldn't be as good as I wanted to be. That I'm always striving for more. But I finally decided that I am who I am, and this is what I do, and this is what I have to offer, and so I still have trouble, still struggle, and still try to improve, but I'm not as hard on myself in that as I used
Yeah.
to be.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I'm relatively young. I think I'm 38. Well, I just turned 39 actually Monday.
Mhm.
So I'm younger than a lot of the fighters that I fight. I think partially that's because I try to fight, knights, like experienced knights as often as I can. And
Mhm.
so I feel like, most of the knights I see are older individuals or older than me anyway. Um, but at the same time, like there there are people who are uh like 22 and so much better than me. And I'm like, at what point, like I'm starting so far behind, you know what I mean? That's how it feels because I waited so long. But I get that, there are people who, don't get knighted until well into their 50s and stuff like that. And, and it may never happen to me. And while I would love to be knighted, my goal is to be a knightly individual.
I was knighted in my mid 40s.
Okay.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah.
You got knees.
Yeah, that's true. Um, but yeah, so and prowess is a perishable skill for anybody, even the 22-year-olds, if they're not out there practicing constantly, they don't get better. And it gets rusty. So but I think maybe that's part of why people focus on it so much is because it's easier to maintain like a level of kindness or generosity or honesty and things like that than it is your level of prowess without constant vigilance.
I'm I I have to say that I come across as a very gentle
Mm.
individual. I think very personable,
So far, yeah.
and people people have remarked to me that they see a completely different person when I get on the field. A couple of stories, where people will, they know me and they get to know me as not a fighter, and then I'll enter a tournament and they'll watch it and they'll go, "Holy crap! I don't think I've ever seen you like that before." It just,
Right.
just like something clicks and it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, that's game on!" And
Right.
uh, that's just such a fun thing to have and fun thing to do.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'd
I have
imagine.
I have advice for you
Okay.
and to all young fighters out there
Mhm.
that are, they're stepping up and bettering themselves and making all of the and trying to learn all these virtues and things.
Mhm.
And that is some of the advice that was given to me. And that is, if you want to be a knight,
Mhm.
go be a knight. Go do that. Find those things that make you knightly and do those things. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the white belt. Don't wait for the chain. Just go be a knight, and people will see that in you,
Mhm.
and they will respond to you differently when they see that. And so when you go out and you fight, fight with um, intent, intensity. You
Mhm.
know, this is how we make ourselves better. This is why I'm doing this. It's a challenge, and I'm ready to accept the challenge. If you when it comes time to have your encampment, make your encampment. Do those things that that make your encampment look knightly. Dress in a manner that bespeaks a peerage. I mean, don't have to put on a white belt
Right.
or a fancy crown. Or don't put a crown on. Uh, but do all those other things.
Mhm.
Get yourself some turn shoes if that's appropriate for you, or fancy schmancy hoopalanda. Don't let people say, oh, you can't dress like that yet because you're not
Right.
worthy of that. That's bullshit.
Mhm.
This is a time for you to shine. People will see those qualities in you and they'll respond to that,
Mhm.
and they'll you'll be in a position that then when people talk about you like in circle,
Mhm.
and they talk about, well, how's this fighting going? Oh, I fought him 2 weeks ago, and I can't forget that fight because he was all over me. Or have you seen his encampment? Do you see the way other people respond to them? Those are the kind of things that you want people to talk about when they're considering you for knighthood, because it's not that they are, not that they're deciding on who you are. You get to decide that. They just
Mhm.
get a chance to see that.
Okay. Yeah. So I was typing to write that down. I didn't want you to think I got distracted or anything.
No, I
Um,
didn't even notice.
okay. Well, that's good.
I was I was monologuing.
Fair enough. Let me see. And then are there any virtues? And if we've rehashed this, you can go ahead and say that we don't need to plow the same furrow twice. But are there any virtues you particularly would like to see more of in other people in the real world or in the SCA? I'm assuming franchise at least to some degree.
I like to see. I wouldn't even call it largesse. I want to see generosity in the world.
Hmm.
I think that we all have things we can give to each other. And in the words of Leonard Nimoy, the more we share, the more we have.
Yeah.
And taking that spirit of generosity and helping each other, not just specific to knighthood. I think that those are things that we need more of in our world today.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that really makes the SCA attractive for me.
Okay. Yeah. That's I can totally see that. I do feel like the baseline of what kind of interaction you can expect from other people is higher in the SCA than what I see outside of it. You know what I mean? Like everybody's just held to a higher standard by everyone else.
And
Um,
themselves.
yeah, and themselves. Yeah, I don't think I don't I don't think I've ever run across anybody where I felt like they were just doing what they had to do. You know what I mean? Um, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about is virtue in action in the modern world today. And so, uh, I asked you if you had something that you wanted to discuss there, but I want to let you end on that note. So,
I did. I did. I worked it in.
oh, okay, fair enough. Oh, yeah, that's the one about work. Okay,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
then the only thing I wanted to mention is I found out they are having a a festival of kindness in Leeds. Um, and it starts actually a week from today. It starts September 5th to the 13th. It's obviously entirely virtual. Um, and
Oh, nice.
so, yeah, and it's just they're going to have, you know, panels and discussions and things just about how to generate kindness both in yourself and in the world around you, just to kind of elevate the human spirit, right? Like in general, ideally ongoing indefinitely. Um, And I like hearing things like that, and this,
Is this an SCA thing, or this is
nope,
not an SCA thing? This is
that's real world. That's just people in Leeds have decided to start a kindness revolution.
nice.
Yeah. And I was super happy to see that. Things being the way they are, like it's really easy to kind of get bogged down in hearing a lot of negative. Like I've kind of stepped away from Facebook for a while, and stuff like that. And so, I kind of just went hunting for some positive news, and I ran across this, and I was like, that is exactly what I wanted to see. Uh,
I kind of have embraced Facebook in this whole
mhm,
pandemic. I mean, not a lot of the negativity that shows up on there. I'll see
right,
some of that and just scroll past that,
right,
But I just think it's fantastic that we can, using social media, not just Facebook, but Facebook is a
mm,
huge part of that. Even though
mhm,
we're all stuck at home and not going to events, we can keep the ball rolling.
yeah,
We can teach each other things. I've taught a couple of classes, taken a number of classes, met
mhm.
with all of my friends, so I kept up on, who's doing what. We had a couple of happy hours, which are quite a bit of fun. And so I really kind of am thankful for a lot of the social media that we're dealing with.
Yeah, and I have definitely benefited from it. Um, I think maybe I was very involved, like probably more than was necessarily good for me, and I think I'm just taking a breather. I'm sure I'll be back to it soon. Um, I'm chatelaine for our local group, and I want to keep my hand on that pulse, um, and things like that. So and it's definitely benefited a lot of people. Like I said, everybody's talking about, prowess and stuff like that. And I think that's great. And a lot of that is happening through Facebook, or at least notifications are happening through Facebook and stuff. And I think it is definitely doing a lot to help keep people together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it is. I don't know when all of this is going to end. I hope soon. I really do.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get back to going to events
Hmm.
and standing around the fire and with all my friends and drinking my beers and singing my songs and
Yeah. And
I,
fighting.
I, I yeah, the fighting, oh, so it was, oh, I made it all the way down to Gulf Wars and was, had everything ready. And then we decided to pull the plug on our, the event steward decided to pull the plug on that, which is absolutely the right choice.
Yeah.
Absolutely the right decision. Can't even entertain the possibility that wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And, but, oh, just sort of
Yeah.
left me hanging.
Yeah. I've never been to Gulf Wars. This was going to be my first one.
What?
Yeah. Like I said, I've only been in like 2 years. I wasn't fighting for the first like 6 months. So
The SCA has lots of great events. It
yeah.
does. Penzic, world unto itself,
Yeah.
truly is. Estrella, you know, what goes down there is will make a better person of you. Absolutely. Um, Coming in November, they're going to do it in November this year. That's going to be a tremendous amount of fun.
Okay.
Um, uh, Lily's, Great Western War, all these are fantastic. But I just
Right.
love Gulf Wars. I really do. I think
Yeah.
it is the quintessential SCA experience. I'll give it a plug. You get a chance to get down there, you should go and you should have a great time.
Oh yeah, I'm going. Assuming it's open next year, I'm going.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll fight you there.
Well, I'll look forward to it.
All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to close on, or?
Nothing other than to say everyone needs to be safe out there, take care of yourselves, take care of the people around you, and let's get back to having fun as soon as we can.
I appreciate it. I totally agree. I want to thank you for coming out. Coming out. This has been a lot of fun, and I really feel like I learned a lot, and I think other people will too.
Great. Hey, thanks, Nikon. It's been
All
really
right.
great.
Thank you, sir. You have a good day.
Yep.